So you're grinding, you're putting in the hours, you're hustling day in and day out, but you look at your business and it feels like you're running on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not going anywhere. Why do so many businesses, especially right here in Nigeria, hit a wall and just stop growing? It's a question that keeps so many entrepreneurs up at night, filled with anxiety and self-doubt. You start thinking, is it me? Am I not good enough? What am I missing? The truth is, it's usually not one thing. It's a combination of hidden landmines, these invisible walls that we don't even see until we crash right into them. But here's the deal. Awareness is the first step to a breakthrough. You can't fix a problem you don't understand. So today, we're not just talking about it. We're going deep. We're breaking down the 8 most powerful, most common, and most crippling problems holding Nigerian businesses back. And more importantly, we're talking about what you can actually do about them. I'm not here to give you fluff or some textbook theory. We're getting into the nitty-gritty, the stuff people are afraid to say out loud at business seminars. This is about real talk for real entrepreneurs who are tired of being stuck. Forget the excuses. Forget blaming the economy or your competition. The power to change your trajectory is in your hands, but it starts with brutal honesty about what's really going on under the hood of your business. If you genuinely want to break through that ceiling, if you're ready to scale and build something that lasts, you need to listen up. No distractions, no multitasking. Just you, me, and some hard truths that could fundamentally change the future of your business. Let's get into it. Alright, let's get real uncomfortable for a second. The number one reason businesses stall out, it's you. It's the founder. It's this founder centricism where everything, and I mean everything, revolves around one person. You're the head of sales, the head of marketing, the head of operations, the janitor, the therapist. You've built this thing on your back, and that's commendable. But it's also a trap. You become the bottleneck. The business can't grow beyond your personal capacity to do everything. And then you hear this all the time, right? The founder usually had the relationships, lack of succession plan, reliance in government for jobs, and lack of marketing. This is the classic playbook for a business that's destined to die with its founder. And let's talk about the other side of this coin, nepotism. Bringing in your family, your cousin, your brother to run critical parts of the business. I love family, but do they have the skills? Are they the absolute best person for that role, or are they just available? When you prioritize loyalty over expertise, you're injecting weakness directly into your company's bloodstream. You're choosing comfort over competence. And that lack of a succession plan, it's the ultimate act of ego. It's saying, this business can't survive without me. Which means you haven't built a business, you've built a job for yourself. You need to start thinking about systems, processes, and empowering other leaders, or your growth will forever be capped by the 24 hours you have in a day. I see this every single day. Entrepreneurs who are phenomenal at their craft, bakers who make the best bread, mechanics who can fix any car, but they're terrible at the business of the business. They're winging it. There's no formal plan, no strategy beyond surviving the next week. Ask them about their 5-year vision, and they'll look at you like you have 3 heads. They're so deep in the weeds of the day-to-day operations that they never climb the tree to see the whole forest. This lack of a long-term vision is a cancer for scalability. How can you build towards a future you haven't even defined? And the record keeping, my goodness, it's a disaster. Sales are tracked in a notebook, expenses are a pile of receipts in a shoebox, and customer data is all in the founder's head. You cannot make smart, data-driven decisions when you have no data. It's like trying to navigate a ship in a storm with no compass. You're just guessing. You're relying on gut feelings and intuition, which might get you from 0 to 1, but it will absolutely not get you from 1 to 100. You have to get serious. You need to implement systems, track your numbers, understand your margins, and plan for the future. Running a business on vibes and prayers is not a sustainable model for growth. It's a recipe for stagnation. Let's talk about the elephant in every room in Nigeria, money, or the lack of it. So many businesses are suffocating because they can't get the oxygen they need to grow, which is capital. You have a great idea, you have proven demand, but you need funds to buy more inventory, hire more staff, or invest in better equipment. So you go to the bank, you fill out a mountain of paperwork, you wait for weeks, and what happens? You're either rejected outright or offered a loan with interest rates so high they'd make a loan shark blush. It feels like the system is designed to keep you small. This forces entrepreneurs into a corner. You end up relying on informal lending, your family, your friends, or worse, predatory lenders. This is incredibly risky. It puts a strain on your personal relationships and often comes with its own hidden costs and pressures. Or you're forced to bootstrap everything, reinvesting tiny profits back into the business. While bootstrapping builds character, it's also painfully slow. You're trying to climb a mountain with a teaspoon. This constant financial constraint means you can't seize opportunities. A big order comes in, but you can't afford the raw materials to fulfill it. Your competitor launches a new product, but you can't afford the research and development to compete. It's a vicious cycle that keeps promising businesses trapped in survival mode. You know, you can have the best product, the smartest team, and the most brilliant marketing strategy on the planet. But what happens when the power goes out for 8 hours a day? What happens when your delivery van gets stuck for hours in traffic on a road full of potholes? You're fighting a battle with one hand tied behind your back. In Nigeria, the struggle with infrastructure isn't just an inconvenience. It's a massive hidden tax on every single business. The cost of running a generator, the lost productivity from power cuts, the goods that spoil because of a broken cold chain. It all eats directly into your profit margins. And this isn't just about physical roads and power lines, it's about digital infrastructure too. In a world that's moving online, slow and unreliable, internet is a killer. It makes it impossible to run a modern e-commerce site, to communicate effectively with international clients, or to leverage cloud-based software that could make your business more efficient. You're trying to compete in a global marketplace, but your connection keeps dropping. These foundational issues create a ceiling on your efficiency and your reach. You spend so much time, energy, and money just overcoming these basic operational hurdles that there's little left over to focus on actual growth and innovation. Navigating the business landscape can sometimes feel less like running a company and more like trying to solve an impossible puzzle designed by a mischievous spirit. The bureaucracy, my friends, is real. The amount of paperwork, the number of agencies you have to deal with, the constantly changing rules, it's enough to make you want to pull your hair out. This isn't just annoying, it creates profound uncertainty. You can't make long-term plans or big investments when you're worried that a new policy or a sudden tax levy could wipe out your entire business model overnight. And let's call it what it is: corruption. The hidden fees, the facilitation payments, the need to know someone just to get a simple permit approved. It's a drain. It's a moral and financial tax that punishes honest entrepreneurs and rewards the well-connected. This environment doesn't just cost you money, it erodes your trust in the system. It makes you cynical and defensive. Instead of focusing your energy on creating value for your customers, you're forced to spend time and resources navigating a complex and often unfair system. This constant friction slows everything down and makes it incredibly difficult to build momentum and scale your operations smoothly. A business is nothing more than its people. Period. You can have everything else figured out, but if you don't have the right team, you're going nowhere fast. One of the biggest complaints I hear from entrepreneurs in Nigeria is the struggle to find and retain qualified, motivated staff. You're looking for people with the right skills, the right work ethic, and the right attitude. And honestly, it feels like searching for a needle in a haystack. The educational system often doesn't prepare people for the practical demands of the modern workplace, so you end up having to invest heavily in training people from scratch. Then you have the heartbreaking issue of brain drain. You finally find and train a superstar, someone with massive potential, and then they get an opportunity to move abroad for a better salary and more stability. And you can't even be mad at them for taking it, but it leaves a huge hole in your organization. This constant churn is exhausting and expensive. Compounding this is the lack of mentorship and advisory support. Many founders are isolated, trying to figure everything out on their own. They don't have a network of experienced leaders to turn to for advice, to challenge their assumptions, or to guide them through tough decisions. Without that human capital, both inside and outside the company, growth becomes a lonely and incredibly difficult journey. Sometimes the biggest barrier to growth isn't external, it's internal. It's the mindset. It's the cultural attitudes that permeate the business environment. There's often a deep-seated resistance to change and innovation. The phrase, "but we've always done it this way," is one of the most dangerous sentences in business. It's a sign of a company that is afraid to take risks, afraid to experiment, and ultimately afraid to grow. In a world that is changing at lightning speed, a risk-averse culture is a death sentence. You have to be willing to try new things, to fail, to learn, and to adapt. This is especially true for women entrepreneurs, who often face an additional layer of cultural and structural barriers. They have to fight against preconceived notions and biases just to be taken seriously. They may struggle to be seen as leaders, to command authority, or to access the same networks and opportunities as their male counterparts. This isn't just unfair, it's terrible for the economy. We are leaving so much talent, creativity, and economic potential on the table by not fully empowering half of our population. Overcoming these deep-rooted attitudes, both the fear of risk and the biases against certain groups, is critical for unlocking the next level of growth, not just for individual businesses, but for the nation as a whole. You might have the best fish in the world, but if you're selling it in a tiny pond, your growth is inherently limited. Many businesses in Nigeria operate in small, informal markets. You're serving your local neighborhood or a very specific niche, which is a great way to start, but it's not a path to massive scale. You saturate your local market pretty quickly. And then, what? You hit a plateau because the total addressable market is just too small. To break through, you have to start thinking bigger. How can you reach customers in the next city, the next state, across the country, or even internationally? The other side of this market limitation is a dangerous dependence on a single revenue stream. So many businesses are a one-trick pony. They have one product, one service, or even one major client that accounts for 80 to 90% of their income. This makes your business incredibly fragile and vulnerable. What happens if that client leaves? What happens if a new technology makes your one product obsolete? You're wiped out overnight. True, sustainable growth comes from diversification. It comes from building multiple streams of revenue, exploring new markets, and creating a business that is resilient enough to withstand shocks because it's not dependent on one single source of success. Look, we just went through a lot. Ownership, management, money, infrastructure, bureaucracy, people, culture, and markets. It's heavy stuff. And if you recognize your business in any of these problems, my first message to you is this: don't worry, you're not alone. Every single successful entrepreneur you admire has faced some, if not all, of these challenges. Hitting these walls is not a sign of failure, it's a sign that you're in the game. It's a rite of passage. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who break through is what you do next. The key is not to get overwhelmed. Don't try to fix all 8 problems by tomorrow morning. That's impossible. The secret is to have the self-awareness to identify your single biggest bottleneck right now. Is it your management style? Is it your lack of access to capital? Is it your fear of technology? Find the one thing that will unlock the most progress and attack it with everything you've got. Start tackling them one by one with focused, relentless execution, and you'll be on your way to real, sustainable growth. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and every single step forward counts. Now I want to hear from you. This community is one of our greatest assets. Which of these challenges have you faced in your own journey? Which one resonates the most with you right now? Be honest. Be vulnerable. Drop your experience in the comments below. Your story could be the very thing someone else needs to read to have their own breakthrough. Let's learn from each other, let's support each other, and let's get to work. Thank you for your attention.